Well, this exhibition is called the Museum of Everything. And this is a concept of cabinet of curiosities that I've been interested in for quite some time. I think that when we hear cabinet of curiosities, we tend to think of a piece of furniture. But in fact, it's a concept that came into being during the Renaissance and encompassed a whole room. It was an environment. Nowadays, we'd probably call it more like a study or a library, but it was definitely experiential. Obviously, there's a lot of things. I don't think quite everything, but really that museum of everything, I wanted to specifically refer to insects and how they are everything to us, though we might not realize it. I read a statistic that without insects, human beings would have 6 weeks on this planet. So really that does make them everything to us. Most commonly people ask, are the insects real? The answer is yes. Second most common question, is this their natural color? Yes. And then finally, have I collected them myself? That answer is no. Well, in some cases, they've actually been farmed. So with the weevils on the wall behind me that make up the skull, those have actually been farmed, as have the fancy ones that look like actual leaves. Those have been farmed. They're that prized by collectors. I have a grasshopper from Madagascar that is part of a development project that was farmed. And then the other ones are collected by indigenous peoples who live in the area, so specifically with the cicadas. And the number of insects that are in here, there's about 3,000, just over 3,000. And they're not new for this exhibition. They've been accumulated over a period of 20 years. And they've taken a bit of battering, so the best specimens are really at eye level and the not so great high up or low down. If something gets broken, I always repair it, and back it goes up onto the wall. So the exhibition is really about curiosity, exploring, discovering, and there's really a lot to explore. I think there's a number of ways that you can approach the exhibition. It could just be in terms of sort of taking you to another place, another time. There's something very fanciful about this dinner party. But really there's a few different takes that really came from research I was doing on Victorian-era museums and visiting museums in Europe, particularly natural history museums that hadn't changed a whole lot since they'd opened their doors in 1890. And in 2020, when you walk in, you're just overwhelmed by the number of skeletons and taxidermy. And of course, at the time, I don't think people had a notion that these large mammals might disappear, but nowadays we certainly know that's happening, and there's kind of an arrogance and a consumption of nature. And I was thinking about that consumption and a song that I learned when I was a kid about the old lady who swallowed a fly. You may recall she mistakenly or inadvertently swallows a fly, and to get rid of the fly, she swallows a bird, a cat, a dog, a goat, a horse, and a cow, and ends up dying, all because of this fly. And they're consumed. So I thought, instead of consuming nature and animals, what if we invited them to a dinner party? And in fact, there are flies in a dish. We do start off with the flies. But I also think, too, we can look at this as maybe a reflection of the times we're living in, and I don't want to come across as trite or simplistic, but here we have all these different animals sitting down to a meal, and sometimes I think a lot of us really wish that we could with all of our differing opinions, sit down, share a meal, share some food, and maybe work out our problems that way.